This is KUTV Primetime News with Irene Mwangi.
Welcome back. It is time now for our discussion. Joining us now live via Zoom is Professor Judith Waudo, who is the Director for the Center for Equality and Development and also the leader of Kenyatta University Economic Hub. Many thanks indeed, Professor Waudo, for joining us.
Thank you very much, Irene.
All right, now let's start off from the theme of this year's International Day for Women. It is women leadership and achieving an equal future in COVID-19 world. Now, looking at it, during this time of COVID-19 pandemic, we have seen women being on the forefront, not only understanding the pandemic, but also taking action. Perhaps do you think the COVID-19 heroines have been quite appreciated and quite embraced in their different aspects? They have tried to help the world and the country fight the pandemic.
Yeah, I agree with you. Women have played a role in the fight against COVID. But the challenge has been, in some areas, women have not been given the opportunities and the resources to participate fully. Where they have been, for example, Jenny Karuku, who was chairing the presidential task force for COVID-19, she did a very good job because she was facilitated. She was also given the opportunity to steer that committee, and the country did very well. So I'm saying that where women have been given an opportunity, they excel. But where they are not facilitated, they actually don't do much because of lack of resources and lack of opportunities for decision making.
All right. Now, gender inequality is something that has quite brought a controversy year after year. When you look into the whole world, I think 20 countries have their head of state as women, and therefore the question has been, why has this been an issue? Gender equality has been an issue year after year. What could be the stumbling block of achieving gender equity and equality?
Irene, there are many issues, starting with the socialization. In this country, girls are socialized to take certain jobs, stereotype jobs. Girls are not even facilitated to access resources, for example, going to school, getting skilled jobs, because society looks at girls as preparing young girls to get married. They don't see them as an asset. So one of the barriers is socialization. Second one is our retrospective culture, where people are still looking at certain things, certain tradition. For example, FGM. For example, when girls are circumcised, they are now ready for marriage. Where there are some communities where girls don't even make a decision. Girls are actually viewed as if they're still children. For example, sometimes among the Maasais, women are treated almost like children, so it's just the culture. The second issue is the structural systems. The structural systems actually favor men, than ladies. And yet, studies have shown that if ladies are given opportunities, they will do very well in terms of competition and then handling these technical types of jobs. So I'm saying lack of opportunities, lack of resources, and the primitive way of looking at things, that girls are still the way we were in the 60s or in the 50s, but things have changed, If we look at the world as a global village, as you said, in other countries, women actually are in leadership position because the society motivates them, encourages them, provides resources for them, unlike in this country. Girls, I would say, in this country, they have done very well. Those who have been supported, those ones with parents who support a child or treat each child equally, they go far, and they're able to make a difference. Again, when we look at a generation, for example, my generation or the generation after me, Sometimes you look like the girls are the one, if facilitated, they are doing very well, taking care of their parents, taking care of their homes, because they have been enabled. But those ones who have been not, they are not doing very well. So I'm saying there are many barriers, but if the barriers are removed, then girls are equally able to compete like boys.
All right. Thank you, Professor Wahudu, for that perspective. But looking now into the theme of International Women's Day this particular year, it talks about an equal future in a COVID-19 world. When you're looking into the issue of the pandemic and what it has brought into the country, we have seen an increase in domestic violence and denial of human rights to women, which has led to the issue of high rate of unemployment and women not being able to achieve their full potential due to some of the things that have come about due to COVID-19 pandemic. Perhaps has the government been intentional in terms of addressing these particular issues? Case example being the gender-based violence, another atrocity being meted on women.
Yes, the government has done some bit in terms of helping women cope with COVID. First of all, in the area of social protection, then giving some, some loans, especially even government working through the private sector, giving some loans to these women. We know many of the people, like most women lost jobs during this COVID. Many were not even able to put food on their tables. There was also a lot of child labor, both male and female. Yeah, so basically the government has tried in a few ways. The government, in terms of sexual-based violence, has put some safe houses for those women who are actually abused, or those girls who are abused. But these facilities are very few. They're not able to, take care of the girls who have been abused. Secondly, these safe homes are only in certain counties. For example, here in Nairobi, in Mombasa, Nakuru, but the country is large. For 7 countries, there aren't many, so they have not put as much resources in terms of this. The other way the government has done some work is basically, work through the police systems to sensitize them in terms of handling cases of sexual-based violence, work through the social justice to be able to take care of these cases objectively, and of course, sensitize the community about these cases. We are aware that these cases have increased, but only the ones that are reported are the ones which are actually dealt with. There are many cases which have not been reported, And recently, last year, Kenyatta University developed an application for sexual-based violence for reporting, because we realize at the Center for Gender Equity and Empowerment that many cases go unreported because the victim feels shy, they blame themselves, so they are not able to actually report or share with somebody. So we are hoping through this application, people can be able to report, and also timely action is taken, because some victims don't like to report because it takes a long time. Then they are blamed for the act, so they shy away. But if we can make a system very efficient, and they get feedback and they receive the results, then they will be motivated to actually be able to report such a cases in a way. So basically the government is doing some work, but not enough. As I said, the safe houses, there are very few, but we hope the government will steer on and help in this direction.
All right, now let's focus on matters education of the girl child. We know that for women to be in leadership position, education plays a vital role. But when you look into the past year, we have seen the issue of teenage pregnancies, which has been termed by many as a disaster. Apart from that, the girl child has not been able to go to school due to cases of lack of sanitary towels, at times due to cultural norms. Are we foreseeing a situation whereby the government has created a strategy to ensure that the girl child education is empowered? Or reflecting to 2020 and 2019, have we regressed in terms of the impacts and the strategies that we have made in terms of the girl child education?
I think we have regressed because, during the closure, of course, the government was not now providing these facilities. Even the health services, reproductive health, the facilities people are not accessing because of the closure. And also there were very few facilities, people who were working those facilities. So in that case, the girls were not able to access the reproductive health. In terms of sanitary, normally the Ministry of Education has a program for girls accessing the sanitary parts, but when it was during closure, that was not happening, meaning the girls were actually suffered a lot in this context. Now with the opening of schools, they are trying to, but there are many issues that are happening. Now, in relation to pregnancy, of course, we commend the government for the initiative of making sure that all pregnant girls go to school. This is good, but sometimes you look at the repercussion. Now, looking for a girl who is pregnant is in school, for example, 7 girls pregnant in school, and then they are going to school with a standard 4 girl who is not pregnant. Sometimes you have to look at the psychological effects in terms of what does the standard 4 girl feel seeing they are going to school with somebody who is pregnant in a way. So I think the image, we need to really look at that policy, because sometimes it could be sending wrong images in a way. So it's a good initiative, but we need to really reflect on it. Maybe the government would have devised a way so that these pregnant girls go to certain schools. So they are there by themselves, they are facilitated to give birth and then continue as they make arrangement for somebody to take care of their babies. But we need to look further. When we make this decision, I think it's important to look at the long-term consequences of these decisions.
Now, when we focus on what has happened before, the former UN Secretary General said that gender equity is not an issue of women responsibility, it is an issue of an all of us responsibility. Now, when you look into the situation right now in the country and across the world, has the issue of gender equity been an issue of all people being encompassed into the issue from the grassroots level to the top leadership, or has it remained to be an issue of civil organization domain, so to speak?
Yes, the government has made some efforts, but not enough. And that's why we said over the years, we want gender equity, giving people access to resources. And that's not happening from the grassroots level. Some civil societies are doing that. I know some donors, for example, USAID is trying to do that to empower people in terms of their demographic rights. But still we need many people to assist. I've seen even private companies coming to, empower the women. But I agree with the, Kofi Annan. The gender equality is about men and women. And the men and women have to actually work together to boost each other, give each other support, Yeah, but when we live to women alone cannot lift, that status. We are still going to be very much marginalized. So we need the men to really pull us, so that we can be at par. So that's what we are actually advocating in a way. That access to opportunities, that's what we are looking for.
All right, now let's bring the discussion closer home. You are the leader of the Kenyatta University Women Economic Hub, and perhaps what are some of the strategies you have come with during this time of the pandemic and that you strive to come up with moving forward so as to create a sort of stability among women?
Actually, at the Hub, we are doing quite a bit. This is the Bill and Melinda Women Economic Hub. What we are trying to do is we realize that most programs that are run either by government or sometimes with private sector, they are run, but sometimes they were not informed by data, evidence. So what the Hub is trying to do is to do research, gather evidence that will be able to improve women economic empowerment. And women economic empowerment, we are looking at many, many areas. We are looking at women in leadership. We are looking at women in cooperative, governance. We are looking at women in terms of lifelong learning, skilling, mentoring, and even sexual-based violence. And then also we are looking at COVID. Government's response towards COVID. And the idea is get this evidence, work with partners who are actually our stakeholders, who are government and private sectors, even some, civil societies and CBOs, work together. After we have gotten the evidence, work with them in terms of dissemination of this information so that the policymakers can use this evidence to improve the programs they are actually implementing. So basically, we are working with these people. So once we have worked with the policymakers, we want to do advocacy, again, holding the stakeholders, and so that they can make a difference. So for example, in the area of gender-based violence, we are hoping through this research, we can be able to reduce the rates for sexual-based violence in the next 5 years to about 30 or 50%, So we have targets, we have outcome we need to do because the project is for 5 years. And as I said, we are not working alone. Previously, our research has been mainly what we call applied or basic. But this is kind of like what we call it, evaluative research, where you get the evidence, use the evidence to influence policy, and the policy influence what we call a program, and the program make a difference in people's life. So that's what we want to do in this particular research. And as I said, we are working along with the stakeholders. We are not talking to them, we are talking with them in order to make a difference.
All right, Professor Waudo, now as you conclude, because you're pressed on time, International Women's Day recognizes women who have made progress and women who have been a success in the country and beyond our borders. In this year's theme, hashtag Choose Challenge, who can be some of the women you can attribute to have made progress and achievement in the country?
There are many. The one I can think of right now is Honorable Charity Ngilu. Actually, in Kitui County, she has actually played a key role by establishing that textile industry that has empowered women, over 1,000 women, and at the same time has played a role in providing the protective, equipment for the rest of her counties and also distributing throughout the country. So I think she has made a good, a good progress. The other one I can think of is this cabinet, what you call it? This Dr. Masi Mwakaki, from the Ministry of Health.
Mm-hmm.
I think she has done a lot of job in terms of publicity,
mm-hmm.
Assuring the nation to be calm, giving us updates in terms of, how to cope, with the COVID. Just some assurance that all is well and the government is in charge. I think those two women stand out for me for really making an impact in terms of COVID-19. And in terms of gender, actually they stand visible for me.
All right. Thank you so much, Professor Judith Waudo, of course, for making time and giving us a perspective concerning this year's International Women's Day as we reflect